Hello everybody, welcome to OCHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes video. Today we are going to be talking about the roadmap to the 5.5 anniversary. This is the translated infographic, courtesy of Ripper from the Discord, so shout out to him for that. And we're just going to go through and we're just going to talk about some of the choices they've made and some things that maybe stand out to me on this roadmap, maybe some things that we can expect coming up. First things first, obviously, was the 5th anniversary, which is currently ongoing. And one of the first things I'd like to point out is, if you look at the events, the way they're laid out in the main event section, bear in mind that that part is ported over from the original infographic. That's not been edited. It shows the 5th anniversary taking up a larger portion of April than the Haikyuu event. And we essentially know this to be fact. I mean, the 5th anniversary event ends on the 17th, I believe. And so Haikyuu can only start on the 17th and then run until maybe the end of the month. So probably like a 12-day event, something like that. But obviously the anniversary will have been running end of March and all of April up until that point. So it's a much longer event, and I feel like the infographic reflects that. The 5th anniversary is longer than Haikyuu. So if we go off of that information, that sort of gives us an idea what to expect for the rest of the month. Because if you look at the rest of the roadmap, I should say, not the rest of the month. If you look at May, the first event is looking much longer. If you look at June, it looks more balanced. You look at July, first event is much longer again. August, first event is much longer again. 9th, balanced. 10th, balanced. Now that's an interesting one. October kind of listed as 5.5 anniversary only being half the month, and then the special feature. So I don't know necessarily, but then again, I do wonder whether this is necessarily, strictly speaking, accurate. Because normally we would have a roadmap that goes April through October, and the final point on the roadmap would be later. It wouldn't be like specifically November. It'd be like, moving on from this point, here's some things we have planned. And also there would normally be a lot more in there. But this is a different sort of roadmap than what we're used to. I think my initial reaction to this was, oh my god, the game's shutting down. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's more a case of maybe it's a mistake, maybe, or maybe this is just something new they're trying. I don't know. It might purely be down to the fact that they did promise us Kuroko no Basket and Sket Dance like coming later on the last roadmap, and maybe they didn't want to do the same thing again, so they're saying straight up in November you will get these two. And in that way it's like, okay, fair enough, if you're fans of those series, then that's how long you have to wait. And I think that probably makes a lot, like, in terms of sports series getting feature festivals, it's not that common. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. We already had one planned for April. It was supposed to be much earlier. So pushing Kuroko no Basket a bit further down the line. Bear in mind that little switch around at the start of the year, that probably plays a role in what this roadmap looks like as well. Because Haikyuu was supposed to be much earlier. It's now happening after the anniversary. So some other things are bound to have been pushed around. So Haikyuu, what are we expecting from Haikyuu? We already had a Haikyuu feature festival. It's kind of surprising that it's getting a second. Not that it's not popular enough, but as I mentioned before, the devs just don't really put as much stock into sports series as they maybe do for other stuff. And in terms of who we're going to get, I am interested. I think a standard gacha Asahi is pretty likely at this point. I'd like to see him be added. But most events have like 2 limiteds, and I don't know who you would choose for the 2 limiteds. Maybe like a version 2 Ushijima could be one, or maybe version 2, why can't I remember his name, the guy from Blue, what's the team called, Blue Castle or something, you know who I mean, one of the more popular rivals. Could be him. It could be like future arc stuff. I don't know how far in they're gonna go. One thing I will mention, and I sort of touched on it briefly in the news video for the 5th anniversary stuff. I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the things they mentioned on the roundtable was there being normally one of 3 reasons why something hasn't been added to the game yet. And those 3 reasons were the author said no, or there was some problem with the author that prevented it from happening. The editors said no, or there was some problem with the editors that prevented it from happening. Or a 3rd reason, which they listed as like an adult reason, which looking around online essentially seems to be something that like, it's like if a kid asks their parents to go to like a theme park and you have a reason for it, but it's like, it's not really something you can explain to a child. So you just kind of have to say no. And I think that's a similar sort of thing. It's adult circumstance that prevents the series from being added, which is a little bit condescending considering, yeah, I guess a lot of children do play the game, but there are also a lot of adults. I mean, you could just write the answer. But I assume there are certain things they're just straight up not allowed to say. So I would assume that is why they can't do it. That's why they can't tell us why these series haven't been added. But that's why certain series haven't been added yet. As far as I could tell, and the problem with the roundtable stream was it was all in Japanese. There was, like, obviously it's all in Japanese, but there was no visual aid. There was no text that could be translated. So I had to go off of what other people said. I had to go off of my own like audio translations of what I was able to decipher with what little Japanese I know. And it was a bit tough, but basically they seemed to say that there were certain series people were asking for a lot, namely Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and I believe they mentioned Mashle as well. That as it stands, they wouldn't be able to be added. That's not to say that those might not be available in the future, but that's just to say that that's why they haven't been added yet. That one of those 3 reasons is why it hasn't been added yet. So I have a feeling that there are certain things that this game did earlier in its life cycle that they maybe got away with, that they maybe can't get away with now. And one of those things I think is covering manga only content prior to, you know, I mean, in some cases we released stuff before the anime got there, sure, but before other games for that series got there. Like, for example, Kazuki Oden. We got Kazuki Oden on Jumputi before the One Piece games, before he was officially revealed in the anime. And we kind of got away with it back then, but I feel like now, to try and do the same thing with stuff that's happening in the manga currently, or just happened at the end of Wano, I don't think they're comfortable with letting us do that. And so they've said, no, you can't have that. So that might influence certain choices for what kind of content we see. And that might explain why certain events maybe haven't played out exactly the way we thought they would. So for Haikyuu, which is the example we're talking about here, the new season of the anime, I believe, is coming up. I don't believe it's out yet. I doubt we're going to cover anything that is going beyond that. Like, the final arc of the manga is probably not up for grabs for this event. So it's got to be earlier stuff than that, I figure. What it ends up being, I don't know. And whether, I mean, if you think about it, in April, we're going to have a total of 3 limiteds already from the 5th anniversary. Not to mention all the other bait banners going on. Not to mention, you know, Urahara is going to be on at the same time. And at any point, they could drop in some bamboozle something else. Don't forget, I still haven't forgotten that Kimetsu no Yaiba anime is starting up again in April, the new season. And they have not mentioned the series at all. And I know them, like, they mentioned it in the roadmap later down the line. But even though they don't normally line stuff up with the anime, I feel like Kimetsu no Yaiba is so popular, they'd almost be inclined to, even if it's just reprints, do something. So April's pretty padded out regardless. So will Haikyuu only get 1 limited? I think that's on the cards. Especially because I think what they've shown for May, that's going to be a limited packed month as well. So might only be one limit, I don't know. The fact is, it said like I've put merchandise in my translations, and it's not technically inaccurate, but historically what they have given out when they're giving out this quote-unquote merchandise is like little bits of crappy printed plastic and keychains and stuff like that. It's not like jumpers and tracksuits and like cosplay items and items from the series and whatever. It's not like super cool stuff. It's normally just literally the sprite printed onto a bit of plastic. So I'm not really expecting much from the merch campaign. And whatever it ends up being, it's not really going to be relevant to Western players anyway, because they're not going to send the rewards over to, like, you know, wherever you end up being in Europe or in North America. They're not going to do that. They might send it to someone in Japan that doesn't play the game that much, rather than sending it to somebody that plays the game every single day in, like, I don't know, Turkey. They're not going to send it abroad. That's the bottom line. So you might be able to set up one of those things. If you happen to win whatever it is, you might be able to set up like one of those things where you can have the proxy address, and you could send it to the proxy address, and then they could send it to you. But that's going to be a lot of hassle and quite expensive for, again, what is most likely a bit of plastic. But nonetheless, let's talk about May, because May is a lot more interesting. We have the Dark Fantasy special feature. Now, I did say I wanted to see a D Greyman feature festival, and it's looking like we're not getting one, but I have a feeling that the 3 series shown there are all going to get limiteds. Just purely based on the fact that we have 3 limiteds coming out for the 5th anniversary in April, and it is shown as being similar in length to the 5th anniversary, but in May. So I think we're going to get a limited for each. Most likely going to be like one of the super OP versions of Dark Schneider from Bastard. From D Greyman, most likely Alan Walker. There's actually a lot of good options because they've hardly touched D Greyman at all. But Alan Walker deserves a limited. So I would expect that. And as for Black Clover, it's a little bit tougher. There's definitely certain things I might pick, but I think the anime has like stopped at this point. I doubt we're moving into manga-only territory for the reasons I mentioned before. So that does put us in a little bit of a spot. Who would they pick that hasn't already had a limited? I mean, there is an option for V2 Uno, but I don't know if the anime has covered that particular version. You can always do another Asta, I suppose. I mean, a lot of the talk coming up to the 5th anniversary, there was a lot of people saying about Lumiere and the fight against like Devil Licked, or the fight against Zagred, or, you know, there's options. I'm actually not sure who they would pick from Black Clover. Honestly, if you wanted to give us like Medio-Leona version 2, but like as a limited, I'd be 100% down. Would love that. I will be interested to see what they pick, because there's still a lot of good content, and I'm really sort of interested how this event's going to be padded out, because if it's just the 3 series, assuming it's like if it's 3 limiteds, we've got to say like a 10 unit event at least. How would you go about doing the events and stuff? That's the interesting part, because with 2 series, like for example the Talavru Black Cat event, it wasn't that hard to balance it, I don't think. Like I think they did a pretty good job. Admittedly, they had a crossover limited, and it was only 1 limited. But assuming you had a couple more units to work with, how would you do it? Again, we have to make note of the fact that catastrophe class events are quickly becoming more scarce. You know, they're not that worried about having a unit for the limited to counter. The limited can just counter an emblem stage, or it can just be good in PvP. That's becoming more and more frequent. So, you know, whoever, say for example, if we got one of the units I was spitballing for the predictions leading up to the anniversary was Alan Walker and Lennerly Lee versus I can't remember what it's called. It's called like a level 5 or something like that. It just looks like this weird creepy baby robot thing with a star. I think it's like an Akuma, I don't know, but I haven't really read the series that much, so forgive me. But ultimately they might decide to add like Lena Lily and Alan as like a limited dual unit, and they might decide whatever they were fighting against, we don't need to add that, and you could have just a different unit that's more popular from the series to add as a standard gacha or add as a farmable. And I mean, they've done it here, like the 5th anniversary, we got a One Piece Limited, we got a One Piece gacha, no One Piece farmable. Which seems bizarre, but when you see the fact that One Piece is featured in 2 other places on the roadmap, I guess it kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's that's going to be a really cool event. And depending on the picks, it's like an event like that has such upside potential to be absolutely incredible. But I have seen the devs fumble events like that in the past many times, so I'm not getting my hopes up too much. As long as we can get a limited Dark Schneider and a limited Alan, I'm not really that bothered about everything else for the event. Like I want to see more content from those series, don't get me wrong, but you know, you can, if you fumble the rest of it, I'd still kind of be okay, because those 2 deserve limiteds and it would be very cool. Then in the second half of May, we have One Piece. Now, this was another one of those red flags that popped in my head. It's like, why are they not waiting till One Piece Day for the One Piece event? That's bad, right? But I think the reason they're not waiting till One Piece Day is because in July, we're going to have the 55th anniversary of Weekly Shonen Jump. And that is going to take a large portion of the month. And that event is going to include One Piece. And so they probably made the decision, okay, because that's already got One Piece in it, if we put One Piece straight after it, people are going to complain again, as they have done in the past. And so, to avoid that, we'll just put One Piece somewhere else. So there's at least a buffer. That's what I'm hoping is the case. And what is this One Piece event going to be? I am hoping, personally, that they go backwards. I really don't want to do Wano again unless we're doing the end game stuff. And as I mentioned before, I don't think we can do the end game stuff yet because the anime is not quite there. I don't know when the anime is going to get there. I don't know if by the time we get to the 55th anniversary, the anime will be there. Maybe it will. I don't know. But would they have that information ahead of time? Would they have been given permission to do that stuff ahead of time? Bear in mind, a lot of the the One Piece gacha games, they are in touch with people at Shueisha, and they will plan stuff ahead of time based off of information they are given. So someone at Shueisha might literally say to them, okay, this is one of the things that's coming up in the anime. Obviously, you know that because you've seen it in the manga. We're going to let you do an event for this basically so that it can launch almost simultaneously with the anime. We're giving you advance warning when that's going to be so that you can start preparing for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jumputi is in a similar sort of position and they might say, look, that big thing you're waiting for, that's coming up around this date and we're going to work together and you're going to get that out basically in time with it happening in the anime. Whether that's how it plays out in the end or not, I don't know. But seeing One Piece on this roadmap twice, knowing we just had One Piece in the 5th anniversary getting a limited and a standard gacha, there is certainly something to consider there, that they might have something big planned for One Piece. I don't know. But in terms of the feature festival, I'm hoping that you see this Goku we've had during this anniversary. I really like that. That is something that I have always felt the game sort of needed. A unit that you don't just evolve them, you don't just level them up, you don't just get them to max luck, but there is additional stuff that you have to do, and there are items that they give you an item to do it with, so you don't waste like a premium item on it. And it's like, it's an event specific thing, unit you can work towards. Obviously, it's maybe quite quick to finish him off. Most people would have done it the day they started, pretty much. It was very much possible to finish Goku the day you started, but it's just those little extra bits of things to do where it's not just another farmable unit. It's a bit more involved, and it keeps your attention for a little bit longer without the devs having to put a lot more work in. But I think that's pretty cool, and I think we will probably get a Luffy version of that. I don't know what point in the series I would necessarily choose. For Goku, they chose him finishing off his training in the spaceship and then going and wiping up the Ginyu Force. So is there an equivalent for Luffy? He doesn't, to be honest. We don't see him training that much. You could make an argument for he did some sort of abstract training at some point for the Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, although I don't think we saw a lot of it. You could say him against Crocodile. It wasn't really training, but it was more like coming up with a plan. Or you could say him returning to Shabondi Islands after the time skip. We kind of already have post-time skip Luffy, but it could be like a new one. You could have him with that like big rucksack and the hood on, or something like that. I think it'd be a hard pick. I mean, you could very much make an argument for him versus Hody Jones, just because that's like the first big fight he has after the time skip. So that could be kind of cool. I don't know. I think I'd much prefer like an East Blue maybe. I'm not really sure, but certainly I would like every protagonist at some point to get a unit like that. And to be honest, with the hidden potential stuff, not only do I want them to, say for example, the Naruto we got in this event, I would like them to at some point loop back around and give him one. Maybe there's a Naruto event on. It'd be good to give him some hidden potential. And then on top of that, I would really like to see it for like, say for example, the Battle Rush units, to make them actually worth having and working towards. Add additional stages that will not only let us get them maybe to like max luck, but also allow us to awaken their hidden potential. That would be really cool. I mean, you could make an argument for basically any free-to-play unit that's fallen off a cliff, that's like a non-traditional free-to-play unit. You can absolutely do it. I mean, even like the Genkai battle units and stuff like that, you can absolutely do it. So that'd be pretty cool. In terms of other stuff I want to see from One Piece that they haven't really covered, that's kind of tough because they've kind of, even though they have focused a lot on Wano, I feel like they have spread out a lot of, like we've got a few versions of each Straw Hat, and we've got a few other bits from different arcs. I wouldn't mind going back to Water 7. I think a lot of people would agree that Water 7 NES Lobby is very good. So seeing more of that would be a-okay by me. I really don't know what else I want from One Piece. I feel like we just have so much already. I wouldn't mind a version 2 VV, like a limited VV. I don't know how likely that is. Probably not very likely. So, seeing as we haven't had a limited Sanji yet, we've had Zoro. I don't know. I'm not that bothered about having limited Straw Hats, to be honest. And another limited Luffy wouldn't really do it for me. We got 2 Sabos already. We got Ace, and we've got Luffy and Ace. We've got a lot of the good stuff already. Yeah, to be honest, I'm struggling to think what they're going to do. I'm hoping it's just going to be like a bits and bobs type event. And it's just going to be another excuse to do more One Piece. Because there's plenty of content they can do. It's just a case of whether I'd be interested in it or not. But if you wanted to go back and do like East Blue versions of the Straw Hats, that could be kind of cool. Like if you had like Mihawk versus Zoro, and you could have like Arlong Park. We don't have any Arlong Park. That's a pretty good moment in the series. Like, it could work. It could work. But anyway, it's far from the thing I'm most excited for on the roadmap. So when One Piece comes, I'm probably going to skip. There's very few things it could tempt me to pull. So it is what it is. Then the campaign is Golden Week. Now, I was hoping we would get a Golden Week event, and it looks like it's going to line up very nicely with the Dark Fantasy Special feature, which I'm I'm A-okay with. So we're probably going to get some pretty nice rewards during that, which is probably why it makes sense for that to be a slightly longer event. And one of the things they said they're introducing is Golden Jewels. Now, I assume that Golden Jewels, they being for Golden Week, makes sense. I assume that it's just going to be a jewel that you feed one and it essentially acts like a dupe instead of just leveling up one, you know, the ultimate attack or the passive skill or the buddy skill. It does all three. So it's as if you fed a dupe to the character. I'm assuming that's what that's going to be. I'm assuming they're going to be quite rare. I'm down. I think it's perfectly fine to have something like that. Super ranking, I'm gonna be real, I don't know what that's supposed to be, so we'll see. And improvements to playability, I'm assuming that's just general updates, general little, like, you know, fixing the menus up a bit. If they could improve the load times, that would be swell, because there's certain things that it's like you don't even care that much about the load times, so it's not even that noticeable. But when it comes to like going to the gacha and you go to the tickets and you're trying to get through like hundreds of tickets, or you're getting through loads of summons, and you just have to sit there and watch that little now loading thing. I've already downloaded all the files. I can't make it any faster. So if you could just do like some little tweaks here and there, that would be appreciated. Moving on to June, we have a My Hero Academia feature festival. This is not that unexpected. There's still a lot of good stuff in My Hero, to be fair. I don't really know what they're gonna cover. There's been a lot of people asking for them to cover like the My Villain stuff. Like if we could get like a standard gacha version of some of the villains, that would be pretty cool. You get like a limited Shigaraki, that would be pretty cool. And to be honest, from what I've seen of the anime, they did like a really good job with some scenes and then just didn't with others. With the manga, the Shigaraki like villain arc stuff is top tier, so I'd love to see that. And that'd be tempting to pull, I'm not gonna lie. Or they have the option to move on to the war arc, I guess, because at this point, if you think about it, we're in the end of March right now, and I know we've had like the Deku versus Lady Nagant fight, and you've still got what, like 2 more months before this event starts, so that's at least like 8 more episodes. Like, I don't know how far in it's gonna be, but you could still like have covered a decent amount by then. So I don't know what they have planned, but seeing as like certain characters in the past have been shafted from My Hero, like for example Hawks not being a limited felt weird to me. And so a lot of the people asking for Mirko as a limited, it's like, well, will she be a limited? Because Hawks wasn't a limited. But I think she'd be a cool limited, so I'd be down. We still don't have a limited Todoroki, so I'd be down for that as well. I don't know where you would squeeze that from, but I'm sure you could come up with one. You could do the fight against Darby, but it's too early. It's too early. The manga's ahead. The anime's not there yet. And then I don't really know what else I want from My Hero either. That's the thing, like they have sort of squeezed out a lot of the good stuff. You can go back and do version 2s all day long, and I think this anniversary has been a sign of them putting their foot down and saying, we're not going to beat around the bush anymore. I know you guys don't like the version 2s, but it's popular characters, it's got to be done. So they just did it. Version 2 Guy Limited, version 2 Kaido Limited, version I don't even know Goku, version I don't even know Naruto. Like, they just said fuck it. And it's okay. It's just, it's only in cases where there is obviously stuff that could be added that you're avoiding. Like, for example, if we got that Goku, but we didn't get Tien, I would have been like, we still don't have Tien, and you're going to give us another Goku, even though you've already got another free-to-play Goku ready in the files. Like, it's just long, isn't it? But I guess it's fine. We got TN, so I guess it's fine. So I don't know with my hero, but I am excited to see what they pull out, and that's probably another opportunity for me to save, if I'm being honest. Following that, we have the New World event. Now, historically, we have had a New World event in the past, and it went down as one of the worst events they ever did. The reason for that is because they brought over 2 limiteds from the Taiwan server onto the JP server with no standard gacha, and at the time, 2 limiteds in one event was a considerable amount to just throw at somebody. And the farmables didn't really have a lot to it, and it just ended up being like, I think it was like 4 units maybe, and like a evolver stage for Leorio or something, and that was basically it. And they were treating it like a full event, and it really annoyed people. So I'm hoping that they've got their stuff together this time. Obviously, we see Hikaru no Go on there. We know that the Hikaru and Saya dual unit is still waiting to be ported over from the Taiwan server. They have said in the past about the porting over limiteds thing, they're going to try and not downgrade them. So we're expecting them to come over as a limited. Saint Seiya, on the other hand, is more interesting because we have surplus versions of the Saints in their like purplish armor. And we have Aldebaran. And I think that's it. I think everything else got ported over. So, what exactly is this event going to be? I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, between now and June, there is still time for them to do other stuff from the Taiwan server, on the Taiwan server, I should say. If you look at the Taiwan events right now, they are currently on the Medica Box event. Following that, they would have the Talavru Black Cat event. And then, essentially, they'd be going into our 5th anniversary, which I don't think they're going to do. I think their 5th anniversary is going to be in June. So, essentially, they're going to have to move straight into Haikyuu. And that would basically put them on the same timeline as the JP server, which, historically, they don't like doing. So, there's potential that another event from the Taiwan server could have some imports and stuff for us that could happen sometime between now and June, and then whatever that is could be added. But there is also, like, say for example, the Sasanu Kakashi. We don't have him on the JP server, but I feel like if they were going to include Naruto in the New World event, they would have said it. Because if you look at like the 55th anniversary, they put One Piece and Bleach in there. They don't care. There's One Piece and Bleach already on the roadmap. They don't care. They're telling you. I feel like they would have told us if Naruto was involved. So that does raise some questions. I don't know. Maybe we're not going to get that Kakashi, or maybe he's going to appear for something else. I don't know. And I don't know. I'm hoping that what they do is they take those 2 series and they sort of flesh them out. And then whatever content that we're going to get for that, where they flesh it out, is something that the Taiwan server will also get at some point. And it's just a way that we can both sort of get an event on the roadmap. But Saint Seiya deserves a bit more. Hikaru no Go has had virtually nothing over the years. So a little bit more for Hikaru no Go, I think, would be appreciated for all their fans. And that event, so far, that is the one I'm most concerned about. I think that is the easiest event to fumble out of the lot of them, because realistically One Piece is going to make them money even if they flop it. My Hero Academia, same thing. And the other events, I feel like there's enough there where it's like it's probably going to be fine. But that New World event, I could see them doing a pretty poor job of. I'm hoping they don't, but I guess we'll see. Now they have also said they're going to be adding some new hidden potential characters in June. And we're not exactly sure if that means that's the next time we're going to see more hidden potential characters, and that means there's none in April and there's none in May, or whether that means it's like the next batch, and like maybe we will have got, say for example what I mentioned before, if we get a Luffy that's similar to the Goku we had in the 5th anniversary, maybe we could get something like that. But then in terms of a new batch of units like old limiteds and old standard gacha units, that wouldn't be until June. I guess we'll see. But bear in mind, stuff that comes up in the campaign and the update section, that is very unreliable. Past roadmaps, stuff has just disappeared from there without anyone saying anything. Stuff has been promised and never showed up. I think we've been promised Super Tower, I don't know how many times. A couple of times we thought we had it. We assumed they just renamed an update to something else because they didn't have... They decided not to do that update, or they decided to change the name or whatever. And then on the next roadmap, it said, oh, by the way, Super Tower's coming. It's like, oh, so it is coming. But then, no, it's not coming. So I don't know. But I'm hoping that just means like a new batch. And I'm hoping that they're going to consider implementing the hidden potential free-to-play units somewhat frequently. Maybe one per event or one every other event. I'd be totally down for that. And then they also have a new feature being implemented. Now, what that new feature could be, I do not know. This is one of the few things, like, when you look at, like, the campaigns and updates, they're still working on stuff for the game. So if the game is going to end soon, which was one of my concerns when I first saw the roadmap, they're going about it in a weird way. Because if I was them and I thought the game was ending, I was like, damn, okay, time to get that Taiwan Zoro, bring him in as a limited, why not? And I'd just be throwing units out that I don't even care about. Like that Minato, yeah, the sprite looks old, I don't care. Don't throw it out as a limited. But no, they're still working on stuff for the game, so that's encouraging at least. What the new feature is going to be, I don't know exactly, but something we have to consider. The New World event, as I mentioned in my old roadmap video, this event, the Taiwan anniversary and the New World event, essentially we're getting the New World event because we can't have the Taiwan anniversary because it's basically going to be our 5th anniversary. Taiwan is going to get most likely an exclusive Muso or, well, Densetsu for that. And so we're either going to get it during that New World event or we're going to get it during July for the Jump 55th anniversary. So essentially, we can sort of say we're expecting one there. We have a list of series there, so we can sort of try and extrapolate as to who we think it might be, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But the new feature, I assume it has to be something tied into the Taiwan stuff. I don't know, but I'm intrigued. It's so vague that it could be anything, so it's not really worth talking about too much. But one of the other things is team organization rules. Now, when I saw this, I was like, this means nothing. But actually, I think it does mean something. Team organization rules, to me, would suggest that they have added new options for the team auto builder. So when you're building your team, there's a button you can press and you can say, I want red units, I want a max luck lead in my team, and I want to include boosted units in my team. And that's basically the only current rules for organization that you can implement. But if, say, for example, there was a stage where a boss inflicts poison constantly, you could say, one of the rules I want to implement is I want you to include frontline units that either are immune to poison or resist poison damage. And it could go, there you go. And so that's what I'm thinking the rules means. That could get a little bit complicated. I don't know what that's going to look like in its final form. I assume it's going to be a bunch of like drop downs and pop out boxes, but on paper, that could be incredible. Obviously for the English speaking players, which if you're watching this video, that's probably you. I would really like them to see to make an update to that, not just that, but also the filters for like in the character box, where stuff like weakening, they would also include the icon as well as the name, because obviously people can read weakening, but even if you can read it, you don't necessarily know what it means. If you see the image, you know. So we have the same problem on our database. It's something I thought about implementing, and I probably will at some point. Just some way of saying this is the units that, say, for example, reduce the number of turns of weakening. And you could just have an image next to it of the weakening and the little clock that shows the reduction. And they go, oh, okay, that's the units to do that. I feel like that would be a nice addition from them. Maybe that's the new feature. Probably not. I don't know what the new feature is going to be, but we'll see. Anyway, July. So, Shonen Jump 55th anniversary. And they have listed a bunch of series. Now, they have already shown us one unit from each of the new series they promised that would be coming out during this event. So, Gunblaze West, Mieru Hito, DNA Squared 2, I don't know, Koisome Momiji, Lycopen the Tomato Poodle, M.O., and Taizo Moat King Saga. So, they have shown us one unit from each of those. So we know we're going to get one unit from each of those. However, they have also listed One Piece, Dragon Ball, and Bleach. Now, the question here is, does that mean that the next Densetsu, the Taiwan exclusive that'll be ported over, will be from One Piece, Dragon Ball, Bleach? Or is there potential that it could be, if we look back at the New World event, from Saint Seiya, and then potentially in June we get the announcement for Taiwan. Saint Seiya's getting a new move, so it's Ayalos from Saint Seiya. And then they say in July, when you get the 55th anniversary event, you're going to get Ayalos as well on the JP server, and then maybe we get a limited from One Piece, limited from Dragon Ball, limited from Bleach. I don't know if that is what they would do, but I think that would make for quite an exciting event. I think Ayalos would be a very, very good pick. Alternatively, it could be somebody from Bleach, Dragon Ball, or One Piece. Now, it's not going to be Bleach, obviously, because we already have one from Bleach. But One Piece or Dragon Ball, I wouldn't rule it out. Especially, I mean, I said it before, I still think Shanks is on the cards. There's a lot of people that are going to be saying Gear 5 Luffy. Potentially. I don't know where the anime is going to be at that point. I don't know if that's on the cards or not, but it's got to be an option. If not Shanks, if not Luffy, you could even do Whitebeard. That would also work. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a One Piece character. I'm just putting it out there. As for Dragon Ball is a little bit harder. There probably are some picks. If we thought about it really hard, not including Dragon Ball Super, because we don't know about Dragon Ball Super right now. We have to assume that it's not an option for now. We're just talking about classic era Dragon Ball and what we have come to know as Dragon Ball Z. That era, who would you choose? I feel like a lot of the characters we would have had have kind of already been taken. You could do like a Master Roshi, like a buff Roshi maybe. I think it'd be tough. No matter what, I think it'd be tough. So, I don't know who it's going to be. I think my two standout picks would be Ayalos from Saint Seiya or Shanks from One Piece. I feel like one of those two just makes sense to me. After that, we have Demon Slayer. Now, what this Demon Slayer event is going to be, I do not have a clue. Because at this point, the Demon Slayer anime will be about 8 episodes in, something like that. Maybe a bit further. It'd be more like 12 episodes in. I don't know how long this season is, so that's either halfway through or almost all the way through, probably. So it could be stuff from the Swordsmith Village arc, like retreading our footsteps through that. We've had a lot of stuff from that already, but you could maybe squeeze out like a limited Tanjiro from that. You could maybe do like a Nezuko, maybe. You could give us a new Genya, that's for sure. We could do with like a standard gacha Genya. And then maybe you could pad it out with stuff from other events or something. I'm not sure. It's a bit... the issue we have is they have made a concerted effort to add as much Demon Slayer content as possible. Assuming they're not willing to spoil the final arc of the anime further than they already have, or assuming they're not allowed to do that, their options are damn restricted. You could make an argument that they just seem to be making a limited for every pillar, in which case we could get a limited I don't know who would be next. There's only 3 left that haven't got a limited, I think. It's Tokito, Himejima, and Sanemi. I think those are the 3 that don't have limits. So you could get limiteds for them. Oh no, Obanai doesn't have a limit. But I feel like that's maybe safe for later. It's really tough, you know. I think they definitely have it in their mind that they want all of the pillars to have a limit. So we might see that. We might see that. But yeah, it's hard to get excited about this. I was such a big fan of Demon Slayer, but it's just like the oversaturation makes it hard for me to be as excited as I once was. If I went back and read the whole thing again, I'd be fully into it from start to finish, but it's just... It's the same situation I'm in with One Piece. I know One Piece is hype, but I'm just so oversaturated on it over the years. People are constantly shoving it in your face, new versions of this character, and I don't know. But we definitely need a new version of limited Tanjiro, like a standalone limited Tanjiro. And I would say the same for Deku, actually, in the My Hero Academia event. We need a new limited Deku. I think it's obvious which one they would pick. It's like the Hobo Deku. I'd probably go for him. And Tanjiro, I mean, there's options, but none of them are incredible. But definitely maybe one that changes between fire breathing and water breathing would be pretty cool. You could also do the fight in the red light district, the one where he's like crying blood. That goes pretty hard. We don't have that version, so I guess we'll see. But again, it's hard. It is hard. And then we have the Shonen Jump 55th anniversary celebration campaign. What could that be? I don't know. It's probably going to be much similar to the 5th anniversary campaign. We're going to get lots of rewards, and they'll probably do like adverts around the place. Like, I mean, we've got adverts and billboards and on trains and stuff, so it'll probably be similar sort of thing. TV spots. Good stuff. Following that, we have a new skill being added. I assume the new skill is being added for the Shonen Jump 55th anniversary, whoever the Muso Densetsu, whatever it is for that. So who could that be and what could it be? We don't know, but assuming it was, say, Ailos, what ability would you give a character like him? I don't know. If it was Shanks, what kind of ability would you give him? I'm not sure. Something related to like Conqueror's Haki or something like that. I don't know how it would work, like some sort of passive damage or some sort of it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. It's really difficult. So we'll see. And in addition to that, something called the Blooming of Heroes. Now, I suspect the Blooming of Heroes is the thing that a lot of people on Twitter have been asking for, which is, as it stands, if you have a hero grade unit and you get them to max skill, the only value duplicates serve is feeding them to potentially get them to max luck someday, which in a lot of cases, by the time you can get them to max luck, it wasn't really worth getting them to max luck because they're not even going to be more powerful than the free-to-play units you can get for max luck. We have a similar sort of idea in terms of recovering hero units, which is the hidden potential system. There's a lot of hero grade units in there and they are trying to bring them back from the grave, but that applies to much older units, and there's a lot of units in the middle where it's like they're not going to get hidden potential stuff anytime soon, but at the same time still the duplicates are useless to me. So I'm hoping they're going to have some sort of new use for duplicates, whether it is just another store that you can sell the hero grade duplicates for and get some more items for, or whether it's going to be something else, I don't know, but I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. Now, to be clear, and I do want to make this clear, when it says heroes, we have 2 words for heroes that we need to mention. We have the kanji word for heroes, and we have the katakana word for heroes, and the katakana is the one we use for hero grade units, and in this case we are not using the katakana. So even though that could be the case and they could still be talking about hero grade units, and it could be like they're blossoming, they're blooming into the heroes that they should be. As it stands, it would not be unreasonable to say this has nothing to do with hero grade units, because it might not. And so, as it is not written in the katakana, I have to conclude that it might be something else. But I would like it to be hero grade units, is what I should say. I would like it to be them. But nonetheless, let's move on. So August. In August, we have a summer heroine special feature. Now, I am a strong proponent of them giving... They have not mentioned anything about level 15 skills here. And we didn't get a new batch for the anniversary. So I don't know if they're going to start doing it again. But if they are going to start doing it, Summer Sasuke should get his level 15 update for the summer heroine special feature. He can be one of the summer heroines. Please. I think we will get a new seasonal unit here. Summer, seasonal, who you would choose. I mean, realistically, there's so many options. Like, you just have to choose any series where they have like a beach episode. I would say One Piece seems like an obvious pick for like a summer seasonal because they spend so much time near the ocean, and you know the visuals have them at beaches and stuff like that. But as it is a heroines event, I'm hoping that it's going to be similar to the Valentine's event we had was it last year or was it the year before? The one where it was like a whole bunch of different units from different series. That's the kind of event I like to see in an ensemble. Yeah, it's cool having one where it's like 2 or 3 events, like 2 or 3 series sort of dominate the event. Like, for example, the Dark Fantasy one, that's going to be pretty cool. But I think with something like this, when the theme is so broad, you should just pick a bunch of popular series, sure, but also some less popular series and some characters that deserve to be added from those series. And we're going to get some seasonal stuff. They like the seasonal stuff. They have come to decide that actually the seasonal stuff can be quite profitable. And I am sorry to say that does mean if something you like gets picked for one of these events, you will have that fear of missing out. And it is what it is. But the bottom line is an event like this with such a broad theme, it could be absolutely awesome, incredible, or it could be awful. So, again, not going to get my hopes up too high, but there is a lot of upside potential to that theme. Moving on, we have Bleach. Now, how are we having another Bleach feature festival? We've literally covered the entire final arc. I think this is an opportunity to go backwards. If we're thinking back to that Goku we got for the 5th anniversary, if we were to get an Ichigo similar to that Goku, I would want it to be the one immediately after he finishes training with Yoruichi, where he shows up at Sogyoku Hill to save Rukia, and he's got the Shihoen cloak on, he's got a couple of bandages on. That version of Ichigo as like a special hidden potential unit would be awesome. If you wanted to get us like a limited Byakuya and have the stage of him farming like Bankai Renji, again, would be very cool. I'm talking about going back to the Soul Society, guys. I think that is a very good arc in Bleach. I think there's still a lot of good stuff from there that hasn't been touched we could go back to. Yeah, there's still lots from Thousand Year Blood War we haven't done, but in the same way that we got stuck on Wano for One Piece events, I don't want to get stuck on Thousand Year Blood War for Bleach events. It's a cool arc. It's a really long arc. There's lots of content from it that they can still add. There's lots of cool characters we don't have from it yet. But there's a lot of arcs in the past we just sort of brushed over. And we should really go back to them, because they are really cool arcs. So I think I would like to see a Soul Society feature festival. Yeah, they could do bits and pieces, to be fair. And maybe they will. I don't know. But you could have like limited Uryu maybe versus Kurotsuchi. Maybe. It's a bit tough to pick a second limited. And I mean, as I mentioned before, we don't know with the whole like how long the events are thing. Bleach is looking a little bit shorter. Maybe it'll only have 1 limited. That seems unlikely though, right? Most events have 2 limiteds. So I'm thinking if we were doing Soul Society, I think a limited Byakuya would go hard. And I think I don't know who else. Yeah, maybe Uryu. I know some people might disagree with that, but I feel like Uryu might not be a bad pick. I mean, you could just do a limited Ichigo. Like, you could do you could release limited Byakuya and limited Ichigo, and then you could have the limited Ichigo fight a stage where you fight that Byakuya for like an emblem or whatever. But you could also have the Byakuya be a limited and he could be farming for Renji. That would be pretty cool, I think. And then maybe like you could get like a free Rukia and a free... Who else? We haven't got a free-to-play Orihime. Maybe it's an opportunity to give us a free Orihime. You could have her in like the Soul Reaper Shihakusho. There's options. There is definitely options for a Soul Society arc. So that's what I'm hoping they'll do. If it's a bits and pieces event, that's fine as well. I just don't want it to be all 1,000 Year Blood War, because I feel like a lot of the good stuff is gone now, and I feel like you're pushing it to do more. You can do it, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I'd be that interested. And it also says, speaking of summer, which in the past was a suggestion of, well, I don't know, what, I think they did it twice, and I think the first time it was just like a summer event, and I think this, or was it like a sports event? I can't remember, but the second time it was definitely like a horror event. It was like a test of courage type thing. So my mind, when I say speaking of summer, it does kind of go to Yuna's Haunted Hot Springs, because it kind of fits both summer, because you can imagine them by the beach and doing all that stuff, but also heroines, but also like the test of courage type thing, because there's lots of spooky characters in that. So that'd be pretty cool. I don't think it would be a feature festival, but maybe like that would be like the core of the heroines event and now build off of it. You definitely can do that. Other than that, speaking of summer, again, it's so open for interpretation. I'm thinking just, all I'm thinking about right now is summer seasonal limits. That's all I'm thinking about. Then we have Tower 5th anniversary. Now, this is something I should point out. Tower 5th anniversary and the, what was it? The Taiwan 4.5 anniversary. Those are both wrong. That's what the devs wrote on the roadmap, but those are both wrong. Now, I wonder whether this is like a result of them like reorganizing things somehow and everything's gone wrong. But the Tower anniversary's been and gone. And, well, I mean, they did something for it. We had an event for it. They released Kinnikuman Soldier. So what's Tower 5th anniversary? What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know what it means. But we're not there yet. I don't think we're there yet. So I genuinely, I have no idea what they're talking about there. But there will be some sort of, I'm assuming that's when they're going to introduce like whatever super tower was supposed to be. One of the things they said on the round table suggested that they were trying to do like real-time PvP, and I know none of them are watching this video, and if they were, they probably wouldn't have a full grasp of what I was saying. But hypothetically, if someone on the dev team was watching this, and if they have watched this far and they are still listening and they can understand me, don't do that, because the overheads on an update like that is insane, and I really don't think there's the demand for it that you think there is. I don't see anyone asking for that. Not on Twitter, not in Discord, not in the live streams. You don't see it. People aren't asking for it. So why put that in? It's just going to make the game more laggy. It's just going to cause more problems. They had a simple update. It wasn't a simple update, but you know, they had an update to roll out for the 5th anniversary that maybe had a couple too many elements to it. And that completely like broke it. Like people couldn't do hidden potential stuff. People couldn't play tower. People couldn't play uni, but they had to shut them. Like certain items are not being dropped enough and so on and so forth. There are issues. And I think it would be wise not to introduce such a large update that genuinely is not going to give you much. This is a bit of a bad stance really, but it's not going to generate them much revenue. So if the players aren't asking for it, you shouldn't do it. it's not worth doing. There are definitely other things people have been asking for that haven't been added, so that's not it. But it does say new features for Tower. It might not be that. It might be something else. And, you know, I'm all for it. Well, whatever it ends up being, I'm all for it. And they also mentioned in this section Guild Unity Battle, or Unity Battle. It said Unity Battle, Guild Battle. Again, I think there was talk of it being like a... Well, I mean, technically speaking, that is live action, right? Live action. But it is like a live service thing. Like, if you go into Unity Battle and you play as a team and co-op, you're going one after the other. So, I mean, it is technically live co-op. But a lot of people don't do that. And I think the reason they don't do that is because it's very time-consuming and it's just... you don't need to do it. So why would you do it? You have to worry about one guy pressing the wrong button when you could just do it yourself and you just don't press the wrong button. So I'm wondering whether they're going to implement some sort of thing to make it like you can clear Unity Battle so much faster if you do it in co-op, and you can get so many more points. But they would have to completely change the game mode for that to work, so I'm not really sure. September, we have the 2000 day celebration. I assume this will just be like a pretty nice ensemble event. It's impossible to predict what this will be. We could try and start going, oh, what the number 2000, what does that relate to in whatever? We'll be here all day if we try that. It's not worth it. But what's more interesting is the thing that follows it, which is the mystery series. Now, they said back in whenever it was, they said that an ongoing series from Weekly Shonen Jump, and that's, to be fair, that series might not still be ongoing, we don't know, but they said a series that was ongoing in Weekly Shonen Jump at the time of their interview would be getting a feature festival in the coming year. And there it is, in September, a feature festival for a mystery series, a series that's currently ongoing in Jump. And everyone is probably wondering what this is. Now, logic goes, okay, it's Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, I mean, it could be Chainsaw Man, but Chainsaw Man is not ongoing in Jump. It's ongoing in Jump Plus. So I feel like if they said something that's going on in the magazine, they wouldn't be talking about that. So it could be Jujutsu Kaisen, but they specifically mentioned on stream how there was problems adding Jujutsu Kaisen, so they might still not have been able to add it. So if it's not Jujutsu Kaisen, what is it? I think the two top candidates for me are Mission Yozakura Family and Undead Unluck. And if it's either of them, I am okay with that. Obviously, a lot of people want other stuff. And look, I was on the Jujutsu Kaisen ship as well. I'd like to see it too. Maybe it will be Jujutsu Kaisen. We don't know. But I would say, for me, I think the pick that is most likely to get a feature festival out of everything currently running in Jump, other than Jujutsu Kaisen, I would say Mission Yozakura Family. I have brushed over some other series that are in with a shout, like Elusive Samurai, like Sakamoto Days. There are other series that it could be, but for me, Yozakura Family would be the top pick. And then obviously we have a new series, Celebration, Release Celebration. I hope for good things for whatever that series is, because if it's not Jujutsu Kaisen, there's going to be some backlash. But, you know, it is what it is. If you want new series, if you can't add Jujutsu Kaisen and you want new series, you just got to do it, don't you? So I'm hoping that's not the last time we see a new series from Jump. I guess there probably is more like, I don't know, obstacles and things to deal with that might prevent new series, ongoing series from being added. But we'll see. We'll see. In October, 5.5 anniversary. Now, this actually looks a little bit on the short side. Compared to the 5th anniversary, which takes up a large portion of April, 5.5 does not. And it's specifically followed by the Yusei Matsui feature, which is a Halloween event, and it includes Nogami Neuro and Assassination Classroom. So the 5.5 anniversary might just be like a bit of a smaller thing. They might indeed just decide that, you know what, it's like the main point of it is getting a Densetsu out, and so they'll get the Densetsu out, and then, you know, whatever happens in the rest of the month doesn't really matter. Who that will be, again, we have no idea. If they wanted to choose somebody that fits in with like a spooky theme, I don't think they would do that. Who would it be though? I can't, honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I've been speaking for over an hour now, so the brain's getting a bit foggy. But basically, we don't know what 5.5 anniversary is going to be, so let's not talk about it. Halloween, Yusei Matsui feature. Now, I am hoping that they intend to add Elusive Samurai with this. Now, the issue with that is Elusive Samurai doesn't really fit the Halloween theme, but then again, does Assassination Classroom really fit the theme? I mean, other than the fact that there's the spooky alien-looking man, and some of the characters are kind of like evil, spooky adults, and they're kind of mean. I mean, I guess you could make the same argument about Elusive Samurai in that regard. But I feel like Halloween definitely is more about Noro, right? Noro is more like the spooky, supernatural detective. So I think... it's tough, isn't it? I want to see Elusive Samurai, and part of me thinks that they probably will add it. Because realistically, a lot of the obstacles that they might face that might prevent them from adding series... I mean, well, one of them was... you know, the author, and we've already got that cleared. We know the author's fine because you're doing a sensei feature on the author, so it's got to be fine, right? It's got to be okay. So then the only other options are like problems with the editor, but I feel like Elusive Samurai's been going on for long enough. You'd be fine releasing stuff from early in the series, and it would help promote what's going on in the manga now. So... And the other reason I think it's still a possibility, even though it doesn't say anything here, is if they just put the series there, then we'd know it's coming, and I think they might want to keep it a surprise. But also, if they just put like a circle with a question mark in it, like they did for the new series, you would immediately know it's Elusive Samurai anyway. I think Elusive Samurai must be in there, but definitely good to see content for Neuro and Assassination Classroom. Both have been heavily underserved. Both deserve a limit, in my opinion. I don't know who it would be from Neuro, but they both deserve one. And especially in the case of Assassination Classroom, it did really well on a popularity poll for Jumputi Heroes fans, and they never really gave it the attention it deserved. So it will be good to see. I know Assassination Classroom does have one limit, but it can get two. It can get two. And then we have the 5.5 anniversary campaign, which we are not too bothered about. Could be anything, but it's probably just rewards and stuff. And then a new skill. Again, a new skill is most likely going to be tied into whoever the Muso Densetsu. By this point, it might be something else. But, I mean, by this point, we'll have 4 or 5 Densetsu. We might have moved on to whatever the next thing is. I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know when that's going to be, but we might have. You don't know. It does say a new power, a new force, a new something. And so part of me does think, well, actually, the original plan was to have 4 Muso and then move on to a Densetsu. We did end up with 5 Muso in the end because of the whole Fuki debacle. But at this point, coming into the 5.5 anniversary, we would have Ging, we would have All Might, we would have Urahara, and we would have probably one more for the Shonen Jump 55th anniversary / Taiwan server anniversary. That's 4. So a new power, a new force, a new skill, whatever. I think at this point we'll be moving on to whatever's next. What will that be? I don't know. I think at some point they're going to have to introduce some sort of unit that's like a super powerful version of the protagonist. Like, if you... Obviously, we have limiteds of, like, some of the most powerful versions of some of the protagonists. But say, for example, well, I mean, we'll say it, Gear 5 Luffy. Like, it feels like that shouldn't be a limit. It feels like it should be above that. Because it's so current, and it's such a phenomenon. And when that comes out in the anime, it's going to be such a big deal. It feels like it should be something bigger than a limited. And it can be. But right now, it's not set up in a way where that would be something that they would add. They've said they're not going to do protagonists for now. But maybe, by this point, they might. Still, just speculation, obviously. But I thought it was worth mentioning. A little theory I had. And limited battle. What limited battle is going to be, I do not know. But we have been promised more difficult content, and it hasn't come. It was supposed to come much earlier in the year, actually. It was supposed to come in like February, and it never came. And we still don't have Super Genkai Battle Saga. Maybe that'll come in June for the New World event. I don't know. And like, we're still missing like long form content. We're still missing like more challenging content that we were sort of told we would get. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect, but I'm hoping something in this bottom update section is a sign that we're going to get some new, more interesting content. They've definitely made a concerted effort to make certain elements of the game less tedious, which I really appreciate. But there's still some things that are a pain in the ass that could do with some work. And hopefully that's something they're working towards. And then finally, November, Kurokana Basket Feature Festival. That was on the last roadmap in the coming later section, so we were expecting it sometime between April and October, but no, it is a little bit later. And Sket Dance as well. Potentially, there is still the possibility that we see Witch Watch. I don't know. But we have Kurokana Basket and we have Sket Dance. And they have a first Feature Festival campaign, which I assume is, because it's the first Feature Festival for each of those series, but they'll have some kind of campaign. And maybe they'll have some sort of like vote for it. It's like, okay, what are the other series that haven't had a Feature Festival yet and you want to do a Feature Festival for? Well, there you go. I also think part of the reason why this roadmap might be a little bit less consistent with what we've seen in the past is due to the fact that we've had a survey recently, and I think they must have got a significant amount of feedback from that, and that may have changed some of their future plans. I think if they already had like made units for something, they weren't going to get rid of it, but it might have changed their idea for stuff that was only in the planning stages. They might have gone, oh, actually, there's a lot of people asking for this instead, so let's do that instead. Direct communication with the fans, seeing the genuine opinions of the fans, that is the quickest way to making like good content decisions moving forward. So I'm hoping that they're going to take that all on board. But I do think that based on what I was hearing and seeing, it seemed like the producer was very quick to say like, oh, the fans are asking for a lot more rubies, but guys are already giving you loads of rubies, and oh, the fans are, you know, they're asking for this and that, so we can't do that right now. And it's just sort of like, it seemed like a lot of excuses were being made, but we weren't really getting a lot of answers, and we weren't really getting a lot of, you know, I mean, they said they were going to talk about the survey. I don't think they really did talk much about the survey, and it's just, it's a bit, I don't know. It's just not great. But that's the roadmap. Whether these things are going to all stay where they are, I don't know, because they moved a lot of stuff around the last roadmap, and if they're still, you know, tabulating the results from the quiz survey, then they might make changes. I mean, we don't know. But as far as this roadmap goes, it's not a bad one. There's definitely a lot of really cool stuff on here, but the big problem is you've got One Piece, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, and Bleach all getting feature festivals 1 month after the other. One Piece is heavily featured, and I mean technically Bleach as well, heavily featured. These are series that already have a hell of a lot of content, and I mean, it's, yeah, and we get this stuff every year, I get it, but especially in the case of Demon Slayer, it's like, can you give us a break, please? Like when I was talking about it on the roadmap of when I was doing like the predictions video, I was thinking for Demon Slayer maybe they did like a anime release campaign and we got like a limited, but a whole feature festival seems so excessive. With until we're gonna do the final part, it doesn't feel right to me. I think they will probably try and make an effort of doing like a limit for each pillar, in which case there probably is enough for 2 more feature festivals worth of content. But it's gonna be rough, guys. It's gonna be rough. And One Piece, they have infinite content to choose from because it's such a big series. But it's still, it just feels rough looking at the roadmap and seeing us going back to the same stuff. But bear in mind, there are a lot of ensemble events. There is still room for series that we cannot see here being included. And I guess that's the stuff I'm looking forward to. I don't know, but that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this roadmap if you have made it this far in the video down in the comments. And I will see you all next time.